The planet was hot, dry, and full of noise. Traders shouted from every corner of the market, trying to sell metal parts, strange food, and cheap slaves. The air smelled like oil and sweat, and the ground was covered in dust. Jace walked slowly. Through the alien marketplace, he was a human pilot, looking for engine parts for his small ship. His boots crunched against broken wires and cracked stone. He didn't like this place, but it was the only spot in the sector with cheap supplies. As he moved past the cages, he tried not to look. He hated the way they kept living beings locked up like animals. But then, he heard something, a soft sound, not loud, not strong, but full of pain, crying. Jace stopped. The sound was coming from a corner where no one else was standing. He turned and walked toward a small cage, half covered with a dirty tarp. Inside was a young alien child, maybe 10 years old in human years. She had green-tinted skin, thin arms, and bright golden eyes. Her legs were tucked under her, and metal shackles held her ankles together. A shock collar blinked red around her neck. She looked up at him. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes begged him for help. "What's this one?" Jace asked the slaver nearby, a fat alien with purple skin and 3 small eyes. The slaver laughed. "That? She's broken. Weak voice, doesn't speak much, can't even clean. No one wants her." "She looks hurt," Jace said, frowning. "She's lucky she's alive. We picked her up from a wreck months ago. Useless little thing. Want her?" "Take her." Jace's eyes narrowed. "Free." The slaver grinned. "Sure, but don't come crying to me when she bites you or dies on your ship." "She's trouble." Jace stared at the girl again. She didn't look like trouble. She looked scared and tired, and forgotten by the whole world without. Thinking more, Jace pulled a small tool from his belt and walked toward the cage. The girl flinched, but didn't run. She had nowhere to go. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Not going to hurt you." He broke the lock, opened the cage door, and stepped inside. The girl's eyes widened. Jace knelt and gently touched her collar. "I'm taking this off later," he whispered, "but not here. Not now." She looked down, not trusting him yet, but didn't pull away. Then something strange happened. As Jace picked her up into his arms, the slaver called out, "Good luck, human. You'll regret this." The crowd laughed, but Jace ignored them. He turned and carried the girl through the market, past the loud voices and metal stands. His ship was parked nearby, a small freighter, old but reliable once. Inside, he placed her gently on a seat and closed the door behind them. The sound of the market was gone, replaced by the low hum of the ship's systems. She sat very still, as if afraid to move. Jace brought a small bottle of water and handed it to her. She looked at it, then slowly took it. Her hands were shaking. "What's your name?" Jace asked. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The collar blinked red again. She winced. Jace sighed. "Don't speak then. Not until I get that thing off you." He went to the control panel, started the engines, and set a course out of the planet's orbit. As the ship lifted off, he looked back at her. She was holding the water bottle close, as if it might disappear. He returned to her side. "We're getting out of here, all right? You're safe now." Her golden eyes looked up at him again, softer this time, just as they reached space. A red alert appeared on his console. Bounty issued. Human fugitive traveling with stolen slave property. Jace froze, so it had started. The slavers were already trying to hunt them. He turned back to the girl, who was now watching him. Sensing something was wrong, "We have to move fast," Jace said, his voice firm but calm. "We're in this together now, for the first time." The girl gave a tiny nod. Jace didn't know who she was or why she was so important. But one thing was clear. He wasn't letting her go back to that cage, no matter what it cost him. The stars outside the window looked calm. But Jace's heart was not. His ship flew quietly through space, But he knew peace wouldn't last long. The red alert still flashed on the control screen: bounty placed on human and stolen property. That property was the small alien girl sitting quietly in the corner, hugging her knees. Jace had never believed in owning lives, not human, not alien, not anyone, but freeing her meant trouble, big trouble. He walked over to her slowly and sat on the floor so he wouldn't scare her. "We need to take that collar off," he said gently. She didn't answer. Her hands touched the collar, her fingers trembling. He opened his toolkit, pulled out a plasma cutter, a small tool that could slice through metal carefully, but it had to be used just right, or it could burn her skin. "This might sting," he warned. "But I'll go slow." She didn't run, didn't move, just nodded a little, trusting him. Jace took a deep breath, held the collar gently, and began to cut. Sparks flew, a soft hum filled the room, and the metal started to melt away. He worked slowly, wiping sweat from his face. One wrong move, and suddenly, the cutter sparked too loud. The girl flinched and let out a small cry. The collar flashed red and shocked her neck. "Stop, stop," she whispered, voice shaking. Jace threw the cutter aside and grabbed the collar with both hands, burning himself as he twisted it free. It snapped open, dropped to the floor, still sparking. The girl fell into his arms, crying softly. Her body shook, but she was free. "It's gone," he whispered. "It's over." He wrapped a blanket around her and let her rest in the co-pilot seat. Then he went back to the controls, breathing heavily. He needed a plan, fast. Suddenly, a warning popped up. Tracking signal detected. Ship ID compromised, of course. Jace muttered. They were watching through the collar. Even now, without the collar, they could still track the ship's signature. The only safe way forward was to reprogram the ship's ID and disappear. But Jace wasn't a hacker. He looked at the girl, thinking, could she help? He walked over and crouched beside her again. "Can you understand me?" She nodded slowly. "I need help," he said, pointing at the control panel. "Can you do things with machines?" She blinked, hesitated, then whispered, "Sometimes. I feel them." "Can you feel this one?" he asked, pointing to the ship's core. "Can you hide us?" She stood, still weak, but stepped toward the panel. She placed both hands on the cold metal and closed her eyes. A few seconds passed. Then lights flickered, engines slowed. The hum of the ship changed, and the alert disappeared. Jace checked the screen. His ship ID had changed. His mouth fell open. "You did it." The girl looked tired, but she smiled for the first time. It was small, but it made Jace's chest feel warm. "What's your name?" he asked again. She paused, then whispered, "Lena, Lena." Jace repeated. "That's a good name. I'm Jace." She nodded, her eyes already closing from exhaustion. Jace watched her sleep, wondering who she really was. Most alien kids didn't have the ability to feel machines, and if she could do that to his ship, no wonder someone wanted her back so badly. Just then, a soft ping sounded. A message came in, coded, private, and dangerous. 1,000,000 credits for the return of subject, Zeta-17. Alive. No damage. Jace's stomach turned. That wasn't a normal bounty. That was a secret project. They didn't just want her back. They needed her. For something dark, he shut the message and stared out the window. Freedom had a price, and now both of them were being hunted for it. Jace reached into a cabinet and pulled out a small pistol. Checked it and placed it under his seat. "Just in case, sleep while you can, Lena," he whispered, "because tomorrow we run again." Outside the ship, in the cold of space, a dark shape drifted just far enough to avoid being seen. A bounty hunter ship, silent, watching and waiting. Jace didn't sleep that night. He sat in the pilot's chair, eyes wide open, checking every radar scan. Every system alert, every blinking light on the console. His ship, the Dust Runner, drifted in silent mode through space, invisible to regular scanners. Thanks to Lena, she slept quietly in the co-pilot seat, covered in a soft gray blanket. Her small hands clutched the corner of it like she was afraid it would be taken away. Jace looked at her from time to time, still trying to understand who or what she really was. Outside, space looked calm, but Jace knew better. Calm didn't mean safe. By morning, they reached a small outpost moon floating near a dead asteroid field. It was unregistered and dusty, the kind of place no one asked questions. Just what they needed. Jace landed the ship and opened the ramp. "Stay here, Lena," he said softly. "I'll be quick. Just fuel and some food." Lena nodded, but didn't speak. Her golden eyes followed him until the ramp closed. Jace walked into the small supply shack run by an old alien trader named Glon. They had traded parts before, not friends, but not enemies either. "I need fuel cells, 2 packs of protein rations, and some clean water," Jace said. Placing a few credit chips on the counter, Glon looked at him, then down at the credits. "You made someone angry, human," he said slowly. Jace's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Glon slid a small data screen forward. On it, Jace saw his own face, and the words, "Wanted, high value, traveling with stolen experiment." "You know, I don't like trouble," Glon said. "But they offered 10,000 credits just for your location." Jace reached for his blaster. Too late, the doors slammed shut, and 2 armored bounty hunters stepped out from the back room. Their weapons were already raised, green energy humming from their barrels. "Don't move, human," one said, its voice deep and metallic. "You have something that belongs to our employer." Jace raised his hand slowly. "I don't want a fight," he said. "The girl's free now. You don't get to own her." "She's not a girl," the other hunter said. "She's property." Before they could cuff him, Jace kicked the counter forward, smashing Glon into the wall. He dove to the side as the hunters fired. Green bolts blasting into crates and lights, sparks flew, alarms screamed. Jace rolled behind a support beam and fired back. One of the hunters dropped, hit in the chest. The second ducked behind a crate and shouted into a comm. "Target resisting, request backup." Jace didn't wait. He ran back toward the ship, boots slamming the floor. A bolt sizzled past his ear. But he didn't stop. Inside the ship, Lena had woken up. Her small body shook as the sounds of blasters filled the air. She peeked outside and saw Jace running, with a hunter chasing him. Her heart pounded. Should she hide again? Or help? Then she remembered she could feel the ship. She climbed to the control panel, placed her hands on the console, and closed her eyes. Her fingers trembled as she touched the wires inside. She whispered to the ship, like it could hear her. The engines powered up, the lights changed, and the ramp started to close just as Jace dived inside. The blast door slamming shut behind him. "Lena?" He gasped, crawling to the seat. "You started the ship." She nodded, her hands glowing faintly with light. "Go," she whispered. Jace hit the thrusters, and the ship lifted fast. Too fast for the remaining hunter to shoot. The Dust Runner flew up into the sky and vanished into space, leaving smoke behind. Inside the ship, silence returned. Lena sat back, pale and tired. Jace knelt beside her, checking her hands. "You did good," he said. "You saved me." She didn't smile. Just whispered, "They're not going to stop, are they?" Jace shook his head. "No, they won't. But we'll stay one step ahead." He walked back to the pilot's seat and stared at the screen. A blinking dot followed them. Another ship. "Still on their trail? They've marked us," he muttered. "We need to disappear completely." Behind him, Lena sat with her knees to her chest again, quiet, scared, but no longer helpless. For the first time, she wasn't just cargo or a prisoner, she was part of the fight. Jace sat quietly in the pilot seat, hands gripping the controls. Sweat rolled down the side of his face, not from heat, but from pressure. Behind him, Lena sat on the floor, wrapped in her blanket, still too tired to move much. They had escaped again, barely, but the hunter ship was still following them, far back but steady, never stopping, never speaking, never giving up. The Dust Runner wasn't a fast ship. It was old, patched together with parts from 10 different planets. It couldn't outrun anyone for long. Jace knew it, and Lena knew it too. He looked back at her. "We need a miracle," he muttered. Lena raised her head slowly. "Maybe?" "I can help," Jace tilted his head. "You already helped. You saved my life back there." She shook her head. "I can feel things. Inside machines, I can talk to them. Just a little." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Talk to them." Lena looked at the ship walls, then touched the floor. "When I close my eyes, I hear the ship, like music. If it's sick, I feel it. If it's scared, I know it." Jay stared at her, not sure if she was just a child making things up, but something in her voice felt real. And after what she did earlier, he wasn't going to doubt her again. "All right," he said. "Let's try something." He powered down the outer lights and dimmed the core systems. He needed her to focus. The hunter ship was still out there, waiting. They had minutes. Maybe. Lena walked slowly to the engine room, past wires and flickering lights. She stood in front of the fusion core, placed her hands on the metal. Ken closed her eyes. Her fingers glowed faintly again. Like before, Jace stayed at the controls, watching, wondering, hoping. Then it started. The ship's hum changed. The engine didn't sound old anymore. It sounded alive. And then the screen flashed, signature jammed. Stealth mode engaged. Jace's eyes went wide. She's actually doing it. He looked out the window. The hunter ship slowed down, turning left, then right. Confused, they'd vanished. From radar, Jace hit the reverse thrusters and drifted into an asteroid field nearby. Hiding behind one of the larger rocks, the hunter ship passed by, still scanning, still searching, but now blind, after a few tense minutes. It faded away. "Lena." Jace called. "It worked. We lost them." There was no answer. He ran to the engine room and found her on the floor. Unconscious, her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. Hey, no," he whispered, lifting her carefully. "You're okay. You did good." He carried her to the medbed and scanned her. No injuries, but her body was weak, like she had used too much energy too fast. Jace sat beside her, thinking she wasn't normal, not just any alien kid. She was something more, something rare, maybe something. He remembered the bounty message, subject Zato 17. That didn't sound like a name, that sounded like a lab number. He looked at her sleeping face. Peaceful now, her small hand still twitching, like it remembered wires and energy. "What did they do to you?" he whispered. "And why?" He turned back to the pilot seat and set a new course away from the last planet, toward an old contact of his, an ex-scientist who owed him a favor. Maybe she could explain what Lena was. Maybe she could help. The ship moved quietly again. Hiding in the shadows of space, Lena slept for hours. Jace didn't disturb her. But deep inside, fear grew. If Lena could do this, what else could she do? And how far would those people go to get her back? When Lena finally woke, she opened her eyes slowly, blinking. "Are we safe?" she asked, voice soft. "For now," Jace said, bringing her water. "You were amazing, but it cost you." She nodded. "I saw something. When I touched the ship, I saw men in white coats, machines, wires, and pain." Jace froze, like a memory. She looked scared. "I think they built me like a tool." Jace sat beside her, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not a tool. You're not a machine. You're a kid, and you're free now." She stared at him, not fully believing, but wanting to. Then a soft beep sounded from the console. Jace checked it. A message not from a bounty hunter, but from his contact. 3 words only. "Come. It's worse." Jace turned to Lena. "We're going to find out what they did to you," he said, "and then we're going to stop them." Lena didn't smile. T nodded. Stronger now. For the first time, she wasn't just running anymore. She was ready to fight. Jace kept the ship steady as they neared a dying star. Its light was weak, flickering like an old lamp. Around it floated broken space stations, mining debris, and dead ships. It was the perfect place to meet someone who didn't want to be found. "This is it," Jace muttered, looking at the coordinates sent by his old contact. "Out here, no laws, no patrols, just ghosts." Lena sat in the co-pilot seat. Alert now. Our strength had returned a little, but her eyes were sharper, more serious. She didn't feel like a scared child anymore. "Who are we meeting?" she asked. "Her name's Dr. Rowe," Jace replied. "She used to work for the same kind of people who built collars like yours. Then she disappeared. Said she wanted to fix what she helped create." Lena stayed quiet, but Jace could tell she was nervous. They docked near a floating lab station, half of it destroyed, the rest barely holding together. Jace guided Lena through the docking tunnel, his blaster hidden under his jacket. Just in case, the air inside the lab was stale and cold. Lights flickered, and every footstep echoed too loud. A short, thin woman in a faded white coat stood at the far end, goggles on her forehead, hands full of scanners. "Jace," she said, without smiling. "You look terrible." "Nice to see you too," Jace replied. Stepping forward, "This is Lena." Dr. Rowe stared at the girl, then narrowed her eyes. "Zeta 17, she whispered. "They actually made it." Lena flinched at the name. "She's not a number," Jace said quickly. "She's a kid, and she needs help." Dr. Rowe motioned for them to follow. They walked into a small lab room filled with broken tech, old wires, and dusty screens. "She's more than a child, Jace," Rowe said. "She was built using rare tech, a living biomachine, able to feel and connect with systems around her." "She's a person," Jace said again, his voice firm. "Yes, but one they'll kill millions to retrieve," Rowe replied, tapping keys. "They didn't just make her smart, they made her a key." "A key?" Jace asked. "To what?" Lena whispered. Rowe pulled up a map on the screen. "A dark area in space, marked with red symbols. There's a gate here," she said. "Old tech, very powerful. No one can open it. But they believe Zeta can, so they want her to unlock it," Jace muttered. "They don't just want her to unlock it," Rowe said, turning to them. "They want her to become part of it." Lena's hands began to shake. "I don't want that," she whispered. "I just want to live." Jace stepped between her and Rowe. "You're not touching her. Got it?" Rowe held up her hands. "Relax. I'm not them." But then the lights turned red. The station shook. Jace pulled his blaster. "What now?" Rowe turned pale. "They found us. Someone tipped them off." Then Jace's mind froze. He looked at Rowe, her hands trembling near a silent device. Her eyes wouldn't meet his. "You sold us out," Jace whispered, his voice cold. "I had no choice," she said quickly. "They threatened my family. I only sent the signal when I knew you were close." "You lied," he growled, stepping back. "You brought us here so they could take her."
Oh.
She shouted. "They promised they wouldn't hurt her." Jace grabbed Lena's hand. "We're leaving," but it was too late. Metal doors exploded inward. Soldiers in black armor flooded the room, shouting commands. Rowe stepped back, guilt in her eyes. "Run," she yelled. "I'll hold them." Jace fired twice, covering their retreat. Lena followed close behind. Her small legs moved fast, but her breathing was rough. They made it to the docking tunnel, but guards were already there. Guns raised. Lena didn't think. She reached out her hand toward the lights, and they exploded. The guards screamed as the hallway went dark, sparks flying everywhere. Jace grabbed her and pulled her through the smoke toward the ship. Blaster in one hand, Lena in the other. Inside the dust runner, he closed the ramp and hit the engines. They blasted off from the broken station, shaking as enemy shots bounced. "Off the hull, Lena. Are you all right?" Jace shouted. She nodded weakly. "I stop them, but it hurts." He held her close. "You were brave, but we can't keep running forever." Out in space, the enemy ships followed, and now Jace had no allies left. Only one thing was clear. They were either going to die in space or find a way to fight back. The stars blurred as the dust runner flew at maximum speed. Jace's hands gripped the controls tightly. Every warning light on the dashboard was flashing. The engines were overheating, the shields were low, and two enemy ships were gaining fast. Behind him, Lena sat strapped in the co-pilot seat. Her head leaned against the chair, her face pale from using too much of her power. "They're still coming," Jace muttered. "They don't stop." Lena opened her eyes slowly. "Where are we going?" "Gravimus Field," he answered. "It's a dead zone. Full of gravity rifts and broken planets. No sane pilot flies through it. But you're going," she said quietly. Jace gave a tired smile. "Because I'm not sane, and we're out of time." He turned the ship hard left and raced toward a dark patch in space. It looked like fog, twisting and swirling like a storm. The moment they entered, everything changed. Gravity pushed and pulled like invisible hands. The ship shook violently. Lena gripped the arms of her seat. "We'll be torn apart." "Not if you help me," Jay said. "Can you talk to the ship again? Keep it balanced." She looked at him, eyes full of fear, but then nodded. "I'll try." She placed her hands on the console again, closed her eyes, and reached out with her mind. The ship's systems began to calm. Light steadied, even the hull, groaning, softened. But behind them, the enemy ships entered the field too. "They weren't giving up. They followed us," Jace said. Angry and amazed, even here, he pushed the ship faster, dodging spinning rocks and broken metal. A huge piece of an old space station floated past, half eaten by gravity. Suddenly, the rear camera blinked. One enemy ship hit a gravity surge and exploded. The second ship dodged just in time and kept coming. Jace whispered, "One down." Then the ship jolted. Something was wrong. Lena's hands trembled, her body shaking again. "I can't hold it," she said. "The ship is scared. It wants to stop." Jace leaned over. "Then tell it to fight, like you are, right now." She closed her eyes tighter. Her hands glowed again, and a new signal appeared on the screen. "Manual override, route stabilizer." Just smiled. "That's my girl." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the ship, deep and cold. "This is Commander Varn of the Dominion. Surrender the child or be destroyed." Jace clicked the "Come. You'll have to kill us both." "You are protecting stolen property," the voice said. "She belongs to us." "She belongs to no one." Jace snapped and cut the "Come." The enemy ship fired. A blast slammed into their rear engines. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. The ship dropped lower into the gravity field. Lena gasped. "Jace." "The engine?" "I know," he yelled, steering as fast as he could. "Hold on." A massive pull dragged them toward a glowing rift, like a hole in space. "If we fall into that, we're done," Jace muttered. He reached for the emergency boosters, but they were offline. Then he heard her voice, weak but steady. "I can power them." "Lena, no," Jace said. "It's too dangerous. You'll burn yourself out." She touched the controls anyway, and her whole body glowed. The emergency thrusters roared to life. The ship jumped forward, out of the pull, just barely. The enemy ship wasn't so lucky. It couldn't adjust in time. It slid into the rift and vanished in a flash of light. They were alone again, but inside, Lena collapsed. Jace caught her before she hit the floor. "Lena, hey, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. "Did we make it?" He smiled through tears. "Yeah, you saved us again." He carried her to the medbed, placed her gently down. "You rest now. No more glowing, no more engines. Okay?" She nodded slowly, then whispered Jace. "Yeah, I saw something. In the rift, a place, full of light, I think. They're looking for it." Jace froze. "What do you mean?" "They want me to open it," she said, eyes closing, "but I won't." "Not for them." Jace watched her fall asleep, her breathing soft but steady. He stood up and looked out at space. They had escaped again, but the war wasn't over. It was only changing. Now he knew. They weren't just running anymore. They were heading toward a truth that could shake the galaxy. And Jace had already made his choice. He would protect her, fight for her, and, if needed, burn the stars for her. The Dust Runner drifted silently near a green-hand blue planet. Far from the war zones, far from the broken space stations, and far from anyone hunting them. It wasn't Earth, but it was close. A human colony world named Verelia. Peaceful and quiet, with thick forests, clear rivers, and open skies. It was a place made for people who wanted to start over. Inside the ship, Jace sat next to the medbed, watching Lena sleep. Her skin was no longer pale, and her breathing had returned to normal for the first time since he met her. She looked peaceful, like a child. Jace leaned back and sighed. He had run out of fuel, out of credits, and nearly out of hope, but somehow they were alive. A soft chime rang from the control panel. Jace stood and walked to the front. It was the colony's customs officer. Requesting ID, Jace answered calmly. "Name's Jace Wren, freelance trader. No cargo, just a damaged ship and a passenger in recovery." There was a pause, then a reply. "Welcome to Verelia, Mr. Wren. Medical and repair crews standing by." Jace smiled, for the first time in days. He landed the ship gently, and soon medics came aboard. They scanned Lena and nodded. "She's weak, but stable. You did good bringing her here." Jace followed as they carried her out on a stretcher. The sunlight hit his face, warm and soft. It didn't feel like running anymore. It felt like arrival. Days passed. Lena rested in a small room inside a quiet healing facility. Flowers grew outside her window, and birds chirped in the trees. Human children played in the grass nearby. Laughing, she watched them quietly, her eyes full of wonder. Jace visited her every day, bringing her food, books, and small stories about the world outside. He told her about the time he got lost in a wormhole, or how he once traded a laser cannon for a bag of oranges. She giggled. For the first time when he told that story, but even in peace, shadows remained. One evening, Lena sat up, looking serious. "Jace," she said, "they'll come again, won't they?" Jace nodded slowly. "Probably not soon, but one day, then we can't stay forever." She said, "No," he agreed, "but we can stay long enough for you to heal, and long enough for me to fix the ship right this time." She smiled, then asked, "Will you still fly with me?" "Always," he said without hesitation. "You're my crew now." She looked down, nervous, then whispered, "Even if I'm not real." Jace knelt beside her and gently placed his hand on hers. "You are real to me. You're not a machine. Not a number, not a key. You're Lena. And you saved my life more times than I can count." Tears welled in her eyes, and she nodded slowly for the first time. She believed it, that night, while the colony slept. Someone stood far away in the trees, wearing a dark cloak and a high-tech visor. They held a small device that blinked silently, scanning. Tracking, they spoke into a CUM unit. Target confirmed. Subject Zeta is alive, a voice replied. Cold and sharp. Do not engage. Watch only. Until we're ready, the figure vanished into the woods a week later. Lena walked out of the clinic for the first time, dressed in a simple jacket and boots. She took slow steps through the garden path, breathing fresh air. Jace waited by the ship, tools in hand. Wiping grease from his fingers, he looked up and smiled wide. You're walking? That's amazing. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. I'm ready, Jace, not just to escape, but to fight if they want to chase me. I won't hide anymore. He looked down at her with pride. Then let's make sure they regret ever touching you. He led her inside the ship. Now fully repaired and upgraded with stealth gear and stronger shields, Lena stepped into the co-pilot seat, her hands resting on the controls like they were part of her, ready for the stars. Jace asked. Lena grinned. Let's fly. The dust runner lifted off slowly, rose into the sky, and disappeared into the stars above, somewhere deep in the galaxy. A council of masked figures watched a screen showing Lena's glowing hands on the ship's controls. She's developing faster than expected, one of them said. We must retrieve her before she reaches full connection, said another, and the human asked a third. A long silence followed. Terminate, if necessary, back on the ship. Jace looked out at the stars and then at Lena. You ever wonder why the stars are so far apart? She smiled. Maybe so people like us have room to fly. And with that, they soared into the unknown, not as fugitives, but as something stronger, as family, and no matter what waited ahead, they were ready.